Hi, I'm Eric.
And I'm Aurora.
This is the Family Retort. We're cousins. Most of the times we agree on issues, sometimes we don't.
And we'll fight at the dinner table so you don't have to.
All right, on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about taxes, everybody's favorite thing in the world. Um, I'm.
What are you talking about? It's my favorite.
Oh, yeah, get out of here. So, I'm interested in this, all kind of got about because we were talking about the Boston Tea Party. And I know there's a lot of historical stuff to it, but it was more curious of, like, what was too much for people back in the day? Why were they so offended that they had to just toss everything out and give the metaphorical middle finger to Britain? But in this day and age, taxes go to a lot of stuff. I disagree with income tax, and I think it's poorly used. I
You
want
should
to
move
know
to Seattle then.
what are you talking about? I live in California. It's just as
We
bad.
don't have income tax in Washington.
What the hell?
It's considered unconstitutional in Washington.
Well, it should be unconstitutional everywhere. But I wanted to know your thoughts on it.
Okay, so for me, it's not about the tax, it's about what you get for it. And so in the past, there was not that much the government did to cover people, and especially after the New Deal, the government covers a lot of different types of insurance for people, and there are a lot of things that the government provides that we do need to tax and pay for, and there's a lot of government services that we need. And so for me, the crux isn't what is too much. It's not about a definitive number. It's what if you're getting your money's worth. In Europe, they pay extremely high taxes, but they have affordable housing and they have healthcare they don't have to worry about or whatever. In America, we are bankrupted by healthcare. So it depends on our choices.
So here's my thing. I think there are other ways of getting that money other than gouging it out of people. Just trying to make a living, right? Because you make money, you have to pay some tax. You spend money, you have to pay some tax. You get money, inheritance, you have to spend it on taxes, right? And I think,
I know.
What utilities or what kind of things did that tax money go to? You think that's worth it? I'm curious to know that part before we start really arguing about this point.
Let me give a PSA about my favorite thing ever, the public library and Libby.
We are not sponsored by Libby.
It is a public service. You can read free unlimited books. I just read like 6 books this week for free from the library. It's amazing. And I mean,
yeah, Libby is pretty cool. I do have to say.
Thank you. So I mean, I really enjoy it because the timer actually really helps with my ADHD. So I actually read the book. I read so many more books because I'm like, oh, somebody else is waiting for me to read it. I gotta hurry. But I mean, I'm disabled, so I mean, if we're talking like public service, like I am reliant on being helped by the government in a lot of ways, and I really require a lot of family help too. The government does not do enough, but there is no way family help would help me because I mean, my mom's disabled, my dad is dead. Like I'm too sick to navigate social services myself even, so I would be just homeless. Like, I know that if I was on my own, if I didn't have the help that I have. And I know that that's how so many people are homeless. Like, a lot of them are disabled. That's how they got there. So that's my bias on that. But you said that you have a belief that private systems could be more efficient. You want to tell me more about that?
I am incredibly libertarian on this front. So here's the problem. I know people like to tout, oh, look at Canada and look at the UK. Look at their amazing, affordable healthcare system. Well, what you don't see is the wait times and everything else that goes into that. You know, where oh yeah, it might be affordable, but if you broke your arm, you might have to wait a month before you're even seen for it. Or if you have a serious condition, you have to go on a waiting list. Whereas,
Eric, I have serious condition. My wait list for everything is 6 months between every appointment, or a year.
yeah,
And then if I don't go in, no, in America, in the
yeah,
U.S.
and could you
So
imagine
I have
waiting
wait time.
5 to 10 years to see somebody?
Yes, they actually do that. They force you to wait and wait and wait. The insurance makes you try one thing that you know isn't going to work. I have been trying to get something for my migraines, and they keep making me try all these different medications before they'll cover something. And so it's not just other countries. Our healthcare insurance does that too.
Yeah, but it's a lot better than what it could be. So instead of you waiting a year here, hypothetically, you would have to wait 5 to 10 years, and by that point, you're so far gone. It's like, well, we should have seen you earlier. I
Yeah, that is what it's like here.
no,
That is what it's like here.
I'm
I'm
saying
so sick
it
because of
would
that.
it would be
I'm so
worse.
sick because of that. It I just don't. I know that it's not perfect anywhere else, but I'm just saying it's not any better here. I had to order my meds through Canada because they would have charged me $8,000 here. Like, Canada is obviously better for a lot of things in that way. And part of that is maybe the free market because I could get knockoffs from India, basically.
Yeah,
You
free
know?
market. That's exactly what I'm
I'm
saying. Go free
and
market.
I'm 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 open to having more free market healthcare with certain
So,
regulations if that would make things more affordable, if
well,
we had fair competition instead of the insurance and rigged healthcare system we have now, because it's like insanely.
eh, we'll come back to healthcare on another podcast another day.
But anyways,
But
so you think that that's working out for us?
yeah,
You think a for-profit healthcare system is working out for us? You think the for-profit college system is working out for us?
I mean, you can go to community college. There's nothing wrong with. Honestly, I think. Okay, side note. I think the college system is broken to begin with, especially nowadays. Um, I'm not really going to get into that today. Again, that's a huge, long thing. I'm going to try and keep on topic for taxes. So I'm going to
Right.
use roads as a good example.
No, hold on 1 second. So you think that our for-profit college system is like fine?
No, I think it's horrible only because college degrees are almost worthless these days in certain fields.
Okay.
And I think trade
Yet you
skills
have to go
are
to college.
trade skills are
I
way
disagree.
more important than college degrees and will net you more money.
Fair.
Uh, but
What? So you're going to college now. What is paying for your college?
well, the military is.
Oh, so taxes.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm not going to abuse the stuff that's out there.
I'm just saying, like, you're going to college to improve your situation with taxes. I don't see how that's any different from what we want for what's good for anybody else. But we can go with the roads, sure.
Okay. Well, okay, hold on. So I do believe that there is some very fundamental things that should be provided by either the state or at the federal level. Some of those things include protection, i.e., a military. I don't think we should be spread out as much as we should. We should be focused more on national security than foreign affairs. But that's neither here nor there. That's something completely different. I think that, a fire department should be there. I think police is an important part. Local police, not FBI, CIA, that's a little shady nonsense. Um, and we could definitely cut funding to those two groups.
Okay, so you're for state violence and putting out fires.
State violence?
Yes.
What, violence by putting criminals behind bars? Sure, yeah, I'm for that.
I mean, how much of what we police is actually for violent crimes? Do rapists go to jail? Most of them do not. Like that doesn't actually why taxes should be used for are public services that make people safer. Police don't necessarily make people safer. I think that is not a good use of funding.
You know,
But
next
hey, you
time
know what? You know what? Maybe we think the police should have the same amount of money though.
next time
Because
somebody breaks
you
into your house, you know, I want you not to call the police and just go, huh, well, what am I supposed to do now?
I mean, I'd probably call my neighbor.
And do what? Let them just bust in, take all your stuff? What would your
I mean,
neighbor do?
I mean, I literally live here. I'd be like, hey, I don't have anything worth stealing.
It's okay. Well,
I
what
mean,
about
but also, like, robbery is so incredibly rare. I've lived in my place for, like, I have never been robbed. I know that that's, like, incredibly, like, privileged for me to say, but have you ever been robbed?
I have indeed been robbed a few times.
Wait, really? Oh my god, I need to hear
Yes.
about this sometime. Because
Okay.
this explains so much more about your weird paranoia and obsession with guns.
No, there's no obsession with guns. I don't know what you're talking about. Just ask any
No,
gun-toting American,
this
and they
seems
at
like-
least have 3 to 5 guns. All right.
No, I just feel like this explains our completely different attitudes. Like, you have been robbed, which is why protection is more important to you, and I am disabled, which is why safety and being provided for are more important to me. I
Like-
think that that's just like the basic crux of our biases is our material circumstances are different, so we have different priorities.
Look, if we could go to frontier justice and not have the police involved, I would be okay with that. You know,
Seattle has where you can arrange to fight the other person, so.
I highly doubt that would hold up in the court of law.
No, there's literally a law about that. We even had like a whole vigilante fake superhero thing for a little while.
Oh my
They dressed up in superhero costumes and everything. We're so nerdy. Seattle is very white, okay? So we're very like high up on social justice issues because you don't have a lot of the problems that people have with.
Look, I'm in California. If somebody is threatening to break into your house, I had a cop tell me, look, even if they're on your porch and you shoot them, you better drag them into your house and hope they die so they don't sue you.
I can't believe a cop told you that.
He was joking. I don't think he was 100% serious, but still, I mean, yeah, he has a point, though. That's how crazy the laws are here. Okay, taxes. Let's talk about taxes.
Yes. And
This
so,
kind of turned into a general podcast at this point, or general topic.
well, no, I think that our different perspectives are why we perceive taxes differently. That's all.
Well, yeah, you know, I don't agree with getting. I think there are better ways of getting the money, like tariffs, other stuff, where if you're importing things, you should be charged a lot more because that would deter people from sending all kinds of jobs out of the states, bringing jobs back to the United States, and then bringing in more money for the federal government too. Because you know goddamn well they're not going to switch. So, but like roads, let's talk about roads. Have you ever been on toll roads? They're a lot nicer, a lot more maintained. They're faster, all around better. You could almost call those a free enterprise, right? I mean, aren't toll roads great? I love them. And yeah, they're a little a little bit more to drive on them, but I feel like they do a better job of maintaining the roads than state funded roads.
Um, so how much do you want to pay to leave your house?
What do you mean?
Well, if every single road is a toll road, how much do you want to pay? If one company has a monopoly on all roads and we don't have any walkable neighborhoods, how much
Uh,
do you think they'll charge you to leave your house?
Here's the thing: don't make it a monopoly
Okay, and how do you prevent that?
by opening it up to whoever wants to take over.
And when one company buys another company out, then what?
Well, then two more will take its place.
No, that's not how that works.
Really? I mean, there's plenty of companies that do phones. There's plenty of
There's
car companies.
four.
4 companies that do phones. Oh boy. Let me
I mean,
pull up the stats on this one. There's
I'm
probably
sure
big
there's like
4 companies, but there's tons and tons and tons of.
right. Okay. Do you know how much it costs to park in Chicago?
Probably as much as it is in LA.
Well, have you parked in Chicago?
Not recently.
Do you want to look it up? A
I'm
long, long time ago, Chicago sold all of their parking to a company. And now it's like $30 or something,
Yeah, that's
like
pretty damn close what it is to park in LA.
to park on the street. In
So,
Seattle, there are places you can park for free on the
so
street.
with that being said, what about public transportation? Then you won't have to pay. You can get
I
a
do
bus
believe in
pass
public
for
transportation.
so you can get a bus pass for the year, pay whatever 30, 40, $50, and that would help reduce the amount of people on the roads. There
Public
are,
transportation is why I believe we should pay taxes.
but don't public transportation run by independent companies that are just paid by the government to work?
Some of them are, and some of them aren't, and it depends on how efficient they are. How well did our train system work
Our train system
privatized?
is a shit show to begin with.
Well, it's privatized for the most part, isn't it?
Yeah, but they pretty much only do freight trains nowadays. We do have the Metrolink here in
Why is
LA
that? Well, right, and that's is that private or is that state?
for the Metro. I think
Yeah, for
that's
your
state
Metrolink in
run.
California.
I think that's state run.
Okay, because I remember Metrolink and it was like a very nice train, but we do have a private train system. It's not a state or nationalized system for the most part. So we basically don't have trains because it's a privatized system. They only run freight. They don't make improvements. All of our trains are 30 miles per hour. They're extremely slow. They basically closed up a lot of the different routes we had, and now we mostly switched over to trucks because we subsidize roads
Well,
instead.
honestly,
Compare that to other countries that
okay,
have trains.
hold on.
How are they doing compared to us on that?
People forget the size of the United States versus the size of Europe, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
Europe, you can have the train system, or Japan even. Look at Japan. Japan's a good example. Japan is a lot slower, and their train systems are, bar none, the best in the world. If you're 2 minutes late to the station, or I think it's like 2 or 3 minutes, they will issue you a note saying, "We were 3 minutes late. Apologies if this person did not make it in time. This was our fault." Right?
How was America first really expanded?
What do you mean?
Like, what is a primary way we started developing America?
Uh, like expansion, just in general.
One Western European expansion with immigrants where we started eroding Native American land, yes. How did we do that?
just by going wherever the hell we wanted to.
What technology did we use, Eric?
Buggies.
We used trains.
To
Trains were a huge part of developing America. Like, huge.
Yeah, until we hit the Industrial Revolution and cars became more prevalent, and then the road system came about. Like, do you think it's economical?
Without taxes, we never would have had roads, period. Like, the amount, so Eisenhower, I think, like, funded all the roads for, like, military reasons or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it was a very, like, military thing first and foremost.
Well, and, you know, a bunch of other things. But, yeah, like, so we never would have had them if they were privatized, if
so,
you like roads.
Who?
I mean, you know what? I'm not against that. If we had only had privatized roads in the first place, that would have been fine with me.
Well, so yeah,
it's have them publicly subsidized now. It's a little bit too late to go back now to have them, because you cannot have publicly funded freeways when we have built our entire society on publicly subsidizing private transportation like this.
See, the problem is privately subsidizing. That's the worst thing you can do. And let me use an example that I'm very familiar with.
Subsidizing private transportation.
Hold on. So, let's talk about aircraft for a minute.
Sure. I don't know anything about that.
That's why I want to talk about that.
Yes, we love talking about things I don't know anything about.
No, it's to give a good example of something that's just egregiously ridiculous. And if you knew how ridiculous it is, you'd be like, okay, well, that's pretty atrocious.
All right, I can't wait to hear about this then.
So, as you know, I was prior military. I was a crew chief and worked on aircraft, fixing them, launching them, fueling them up, all kinds of random stuff.
Okay.
So, well, fixing them, you learn how much things cost. You know, it's not crazy at first, but...
Oh, is this where... Okay, I'm going to guess that either the military drastically overpays and, like, replaces something for reasons that are dumb, or it's something else. Which one is it?
Both.
Okay. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, it's okay. So we have bolts, right? Bolts, no differently made than the hardware store. You can go basically get something very similar for 29 cents, right?
Mm-hmm.
We spent hundreds of dollars per bolt. And the reasoning is, well, you see, these are certified bolts. These go, and even though they're from, like, if you really look deep down, they're from the same manufacturer, everything else, but some of them have been tested and proven to a certain amount limits and all this other kinds of stuff. So they basically, these companies, so let's use Lockheed Martin, Boeing, anybody, right? They go, we want your aircraft for the military. They go, you know what? We're going to charge you $300 million. And they go, okay, that seems reasonable. And because they got those contracts, now they can charge whatever the hell they want in parts. Because they're the only ones that make it. They're locked in. So we end up spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, probably billions of dollars, on just stuff we could buy for a fraction of the price. A good example is, same thing. We got curious one day, and we went to our supply people because, you know, we were a little bored. We wanted to see something. So, how should I explain this so you can get this? So we have these assemblies, right? They're two pieces that go on the back of our engine. Super easy to remove. Normally they stay together, right? Are you tracking?
Yeah, I'm listening.
So one of these pieces...
Oh, this is the Is this the
Yeah.
one you told me where each of the pieces separately cost a certain amount and then together they cost like almost exponentially
Yep.
more, and it's
Yep.
just so insane?
Yep.
I remember this story, but
So
I will let you
this
finish
is
for our viewers, the
keep in
listeners.
mind, this is where your tax dollars are going. Not to, you
Yes,
know,
I agree. We should defund the military.
oh Jesus Christ. Um anyway, they should be more, how should I explain this? Kind of like
I mean, the
oh,
library does much better things with the money.
let me explain the story for those people who aren't familiar. I know we've talked about this, but
Yes, yes.
so this assembly, right? There's two pieces. You have the two pieces together are, I think, 30 or like $50,000, an absurd amount of money, right? Now, these pieces are incredibly easy to put together. We did it not all the time. It was a very rare thing, but I've done it once or twice. It probably took us 30 minutes, right? Individually, they cost maybe 10 a piece, right? So you're looking at $20,000 difference to like, you know,
I
this
just want to be clear. Are you
absurd.
buying these things from like a private company through a government contract?
Yes.
So if the government had you just buy those pieces separately and put them together, you as a government employee could have put them together for the government much cheaper than if they had bought a government contract.
Ah,
And
here's the
paid
thing.
a private company.
Here's the thing. We can't do that because of certain. So, I'm not going to go too crazy into depth, but it's. How should I explain this? We have to work off of. They're called TOs, so tech order, right? And
Okay.
sometimes they don't sell the individual pieces. There's only so much supply, right? So, you know, you almost sometimes have to buy the assembly, the whole piece, instead of the two separate things. So, let's say two of these break, right? Two of these assemblies, right? So it'd be easier to get them individually, right? But there may not be four of the pieces. So, you know, one of one side, one of the other side, one of one side, one of the other side. So you're looking at two sets, right? Well, that might not be in the inventory. There might not be any inventory of that. So then we have to default to the next higher assembly. Like I said, this goes in all kinds of crazy in-depth stuff. But to boil it down is, oh, well, we don't have the supply of this. You are forced to buy the two pieces together for the outrageous cost.
So, and that is a private industry producing them, and that has a monopoly on them.
Exactly. They have this kind of monopoly. It's because the government goes,
So,
yeah, we're locked.
Industry
Ah.
has a monopoly on them, and the government has to pay these outrageous prices. And is there a law that makes the government have to pay from this private company? Some sort of like.
No, there's no
Like,
laws. There's government contracts, which are just as worse.
So you think that government contracts to private companies are really a huge waste of taxes?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I'm not against that. I agree with you there. I
So-
think that this is why your experience says that taxes are
Misused.
like such a waste of money. Yeah, I think like with that experience, I think you're completely right, and I totally agree that the government wastes so much money on the military. Like there is a huge
Well,
glut that they
it's-
put into the military.
I hate to
and
tell
that
you,
they
but
don't put into other things.
it's
I mean,
it's
if
not
they
just the
do-
military that does these kind of, like, if you look into like government contracting type work, you're gonna find this all over the place. I'm just using the military as an example because I'm the most familiar with it. But they'll do
Right.
this for like road construction and other stuff. That's why I'm saying, and a lot of times they'll go with the lowest bidder too, which is another big problem. They won't go for quality work. They'll be like, well, this guy's least expensive, but then they do the worst work possible so they can come back and say, oh, well, we need to fix it now. here's another contract we'll do, and then they go, okay, here you go, here's another couple $1,000,000 to fix it.
And you think a private company is any better?
Here's where I am. So again, I worked at SpaceX for a while, right? SpaceX,
Which is government funded, right?
no. They're privately owned.
Oh.
And they have
I'm
government.
pretty sure it had like a lot of subsidies and government grants
So
and stuff.
here's the thing. I think a few, but most of their income comes from government contracts. So
Oh, okay. So they are being paid by the government.
To some extent, but most of the funding comes from private. But here's the thing that they do differently, right? Because they're a business, they need to succeed, right? They can't just rely on government bailouts, too. So What they do is they come and they figure out what's a good price, to make some money, and then engineer stuff to help reduce that cost from their end, because most of the rockets are built in-house. Most of the parts are built in-house. So government has these kind of resources that are vastly more than SpaceX could ever imagine, right? So if the government went to these companies, right, and looked at it and went, you know what? I think we can do that for less money. That's a pretty simple part. We can do the certifications ourselves and the manufacturing ourselves. Let's do that. I think it would save so much in government spending, it would not even be funny.
I am totally down with like streamlining government funding and trying to recategorize how we make things. And so is that what your biggest problem is, that you think there's like just all these little pockets of things where things are not efficient enough?
Yeah, you could say that.
It's about efficiency?
It's about like bad spending habits too. So here's the F-35 program. They tout how amazing it is and it's great. It's the next gen aircraft. If you knew how much money they spent on one of those aircrafts, it would blow your mind.
Would I feel like it's extremely excessive and then count how many homeless people it could house permanently?
Sure. Yeah, if you want to deal with one F-35 could house 500 homeless people for like 10 years.
I was just being flippant, because that's always how we compare it, right? Is like, look what we could have done with this money.
Yeah.
And
I think it's so the problem with like the F-35 program is they're already committed to these, contracts, these government contracts where you can't, like, it's impossible to get out of them, right? Whereas if it was more, how should I say, open or open-ended, they could say, you know what, I think this program is garbage, we're spending too much money, no thanks, we'll find somebody better.
So I know that your biggest thing is how wasteful government contracts are.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. I don't think people realize how much money goes into that kind of stuff. And it's just appalling how many millions of dollars just go to waste buying stupid bolts.
And how much do you think, healthcare industry and the insurance industry, and there's so many other industries.
So here's what I think.
With their profit.
I think it's just as bad.
So for-profit government contracts and for-profit businesses are, I feel like, similarly levels have excessive money going to other people, right?
Sure, yeah.
Are they just as inefficient?
So here's the thing. Cut people's taxes so the government is forced into, I don't know, actually using the money more effectively than just going, oh, okay, so this thing costs $5 million for, I don't know, XYZ. Okay, we'll just pay it. Versus going, well, no, we're not going to pay for your service. We can find, somewhere that will be willing to accept a lower price.
We're going to have a whole other episode on the school system, because almost a lot of my rebuttals have to be like with, because you are talking a lot about how, and I both agree how wasteful military etc. are.
So
and
yeah,
I also agree that having roads as on cars as our main form of transit is also bad, but I don't think that is the problem with taxes.
Well, I think
that's the problem of our priorities. The problem is that our priorities are not getting what we want, what benefits us out of taxes. However, you do think that the military and the police are what we should be spending our taxes on. So when you're arguing for austerity politics and you're saying we should cut taxes, whose life do you want to cut?
I
do you
think
want to cut your college education? Do you want to cut your health care? Do you want to cut my small amount? Do you want to cut my health care?
No, I want to cut government contracts. I want to cut bullshit spending. And then, therefore...
What is a government contract?
Of course I know it. Okay.
I mean, I would also like if the government did medical insurance themselves. I feel like that would be more efficient than contracting out privately.
So here's the thing.
We're on the same page there.
But as these things, so this is kind of the loop, right? These companies, again, I'm using aircraft as an example because that's the one I'm most familiar with, right? They go, okay, well, we got this government contract. Awesome. That's a ton of money for us. Okay, now we can start charging them whatever we feel like. So it feeds into this, okay, well, now we need to pay more for this stuff because we have, this is the government talking. So the government, right? Oh, well, okay, we have these things. Well, now they're charging us all this money for all these parts. We need to repair these aircraft. We need to keep these up to snuff, And
do you think cutting taxes would change that?
Yes. Because it would force them to go...
What do you think they would deprioritize?
I think they should I know what they would oh my gosh. Deprioritize first. And then...
What would they deprioritize first? Tell me.
Probably social services.
Yes. Exactly. Government.
I'm not saying these guys are angels.
Adams in New York City is shutting down libraries in order to fund the police.
Well, what's the crime rate there?
That is literally funding the police is not going to change the crime rate. The police are not going to fix the problem.
Yeah, they are.
No, they aren't.
Have you okay. Jesus Christ.
But punishment can only do so much.
Did you know?
The problem is all of the crazy homeless people. Then what you need is housing for people and mental health care.
It's not just homeless people that cause crime.
If the problem is people stealing things,
it's not just homeless people. Did you know?
If the problem is stealing things, then you have to address.
Did you know? Did you know that increased police patrols have been linked to a decrease in crime just being present in certain communities?
Yeah, sometimes.
And then you cut
but
those.
Do you know that you could get the same results by adding more lights?
Did you know I can get the same result by buying a shotgun and protecting my house?
I mean, but adding more street lamps actually significantly improves people's things. Like, street beautification does the same amount of good.
Who's going to pay for the electricity?
It's street lamps. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would rather pay for some man to shoot some random stranger on the street because he thinks he's suspicious than to add more street lamps? Because street lamps make people have to do
What
things
about
because they're
global
inside.
warming? Who's good?
The Pacific Northwest and a lot of other areas are funded almost entirely electricity-wise. Are run most entirely on renewable
By
energy.
coal and
No,
nuclear energy.
Seattle is largely wind and some other things. I think water and other stuff. Seattle is and I think like Portland and also even California, we're largely on renewable energy. But if some of it's nuclear, that's fine too.
Anyway, yeah, I'm. Side note: nuclear energy is the best way to go, but that's for a different conversation.
All right. So what I'm hearing is that you think we should cut taxes because that would force government contracts to have to be more efficient because you think government contracts to private companies are extremely wasteful.
Yes. And from what I'm hearing from you is you agree with taxes, but you just think they're misallocated on how the government spends that money.
Yes. I think we both agree on how wasteful the government can be with private contracts sometimes.
Yes.
And
Oh,
especially
100%.
with how it spends the money on the military. And I mean,
I think
roads
that
take up a lot of money.
I think that some government spending is okay, but it needs to be, I don't know, throttled back immensely, and they really need to relook at like these contracts and maybe not lock them into such like rigid type of, I don't know, be able to break the contracts and go, hey, you know what, screw you, we can find somebody who does it cheaper and better.
I do think the government rigidity is one of its. It was made to be slow, and that's what makes it difficult to adjust to have better things. I think that our primary disagreements are on spending taxes on the police, and I mean our attitudes on taxes in general, and
So many
whether we
topics.
should be spending money on defense and police, or if we should be spending money on social services.
All right. Well, good talk today. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you guys for listening. Listen next time and have good arguments.
All right. Bye.